Boca Raton, Florida, Rabbis Efrem Goldberg, Philip Moskowitz, and Josh Brody are taking you behind the Bima. The BRS rabbis schmooze about contemporary issues and talk to special guests who give a behind-the-scenes look at how they got to where they are and what keeps them going. Welcome to Behind the Bima.
Good evening. It's 9 p.m. on Wednesday night, coming to you live. Rabbi Efrem Goldberg with my dear friend, co-host, and colleague, Rabbi Joshua Brody, and we're here to take you
behind the Bima.
Behind the Bima. It's a big night tonight. We got a big guest, someone we love.
It happens to be, it's a huge night.
Someone who had a big impact on.
Wow.
Like the dust in the breeze. Abie Rotenberg, man, moves you, unbelievable. The great Abie Rotenberg, our guest tonight, song composer, author, singer, all around incredible person. Whose songs, I don't know, they move me, they move you.
Changed my life.
Game changer. The great Abie Rotenberg. Rabbi Brody, what's your favorite Abie Rotenberg song?
I have so many, but I got to say that probably the one we're singing right now, we've been singing it for the last almost 25 years of Ishinantam, is Haben Yak, is Hamalach HaGoel. So it's become like the theme song to our program. I love it, but there's so many, I guess, Haben Yakirli, they're all great. They're
unbelievable.
They're all amazing. Achenu, we sing it at Ishinantam every week also.
You know what the sign of a great composer is? When everyone's singing his melodies and songs, they don't even know it's from him.
You don't even know.
Hamalach HaGoel. These are all his songs.
Yeah.
Haben Yakirli, like you said, Lev Tahor. Now, what about all the English songs? Like just the memories. I mean, there's a unbelievable.
Time to say good Shabbos.
Conversations in the womb. Time to say good Shabbos. Joe DiMaggio's card. Mama Rachel. Neshamala.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ride the train. Come on and ride the train.
Come on and ride. That's one of the first songs I ever learned.
I belong.
Yeah.
The wedding song. The Shadchan. Who am I? Yerushalayim. Yeshiva Charade. Yeah, this is unbelievable. The Pesach Blues, the man from Vilna. It's unbelievable. Atheist convention in LA.
Yeah,
just go down the list. So we did a poll. We did a Twitter poll. Many people answered, and here is the answer. We question: what is your favorite Abie Rotenberg collection? Because Abie Rotenberg also has many collections. Dvekas, remember Dvekas? Journeys, Lev Nefesh, Marvelous Midos Machine, and we left one off. Eish with Shlomo Simcha. He had a whole series called Eish. We left that one off. No offense, Eish. Dvekas, Journeys, Lev Nefesh, Marvelous Midos Machine. And here were the poll results.
I'm assuming, can I say what I think it is? I got to go with Dvekas.
Give me the order. Dvekas coming in number one, you think?
I would say Dvekas is number one.
Wrong.
No, you know what? The people answering this are probably younger than us, so they don't even know Dvekas.
No, Dvekas not number one. Number one was Journeys, 54.2%. 54.2% came in with Journeys, the English songs and Journeys. Number two was 30.5% with Dvekas.
Okay.
What do you think was number three?
Aish? Was Aish on the list?
Marvelous Midos Machine.
Really?
Coming in with 11.9%. And lastly, Lev Nefesh, only 3.4%. Not that many people necessarily heard of Lev Nefesh.
I'm pretty sure that if you put out the songs instead of the albums or the bands, more people are going to go with the songs from Dvekas. They just don't know that that's him. They don't know it's Dvekas. They don't know it's Abie Rotenberg. When you list off all the Hebrew songs that people are singing.
Who doesn't know this song?
This song is a game changer. It's a game changer.
What comes that doesn't include this song? What else? That's on Lev Nefesh, by the way.
Oh, it is?
Achen is a Lev Nefesh song.
Oh, I thought that was Dvekas.
No, it's Lev Nefesh. What else? Who can?
I'll tell you what.
You know this one? Come on and ride the train. Journeys too. Wow. Ride the train. This is one of the most moving ones. Do you know this one? I once gave an entire Yizkor drush about this song.
I met a man last Sunday who was on his way back home.
man from Vilna.
Yeah.
What a song! What a story! He's a modern paitan, a modern poet. Stories like that. Abie Rotenberg. We're gonna bring him on soon for an amazing conversation.
I can't wait.
He's great, Abie Rotenberg.
I'll just say that there are certain interviews I get very excited for. This might be in like the top 5, maybe top 3. But not because I've ever met him. I've never spoken to him. It's just the music that he's played.
Yeah.
It's
Tugs on your heartstrings.
Yeah.
It's hard not to cry when you listen to his music. So I got several people texting me when they saw we were having him on. One of the people that texted me is a young man. I don't want to embarrass him. I don't have his permission. He was here once at the Boker Raton Synagogue Winter Kola, which is going on again right now. YU and Lander students in their intercession. Bachrim learning at YU and Landers come down to Boker Raton Synagogue. We host a Winter Kollel at our shul. We're excited. The Winter Kollel, Rosh Kollel, happens to be the Rosh Yeshiva South Florida, Rayon 11. So this young man came down a couple years ago for the Winter Kollel. He's a songwriter himself. He wrote a great song that I love. Should I play his song a little bit? But he wrote a song that I love. Anyway, he sent me. He was a madrich on NCSY Kollel this past summer, right. And what he taught on NCSY summer. Listen to this. I gotta read to you. He taught a curriculum based on Abie Rotenberg. He unbelievable. Listen to this. That's what he wrote to me. I saw you're having Abie Rotenberg in the podcast, and I want to share with you my NCSY Kollel chaburas with you this past summer were based on his Journey albums. My chabura would listen to a song, discuss it together, and spend the week learning one sugi in halacha and another in machshava chasidus, which paralleled the song's lyrics. Isn't that amazing?
Did he ever share that with Abie?
No. So I sent it to Abie. I sent it to him. It was blown away. The young man who did that, this is his song. Those who know, know. If you know, you know. It's another great song.
Yeah.
It's a different Karach. No, I'm on the Shamos. So probably he feels connected to Abie and to, because he's a songwriter himself. He's a great song. You don't know the song. Anyway, so he sent me all the chaburas. Sent me a file, almost professionally done. We created an entire curriculum based on the Journey songs. English songs.
Tell him to give a chabura the Shabbos.
English songs, they would listen, and then he would teach the ideas, the values, the Torah that corresponded, that inspired those songs in Abie. I sent it to Abie Rotenberg. He was blown away. Loved it.
Yeah.
He's blown away. Anyway, amazing stuff. Abie Rotenberg. We're going to bring him on in a moment. But before, Rabbi Brody, what's going on? Talk to us live.
Lots going on. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of good things. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, not allowed to say, but let's just say there's exciting things going on since the last time we spoke,
Yeah.
Let me just find out what kind of permissions I got before I start announcing things, but
Thank God. Good things.
Thank God. It's all good things. Baruch Hashem. We're all happy, and it's exciting. Thank God. I'm like, we're in a good place. But can I just tell you one thing that I'm thinking about in terms of Abie Rotenberg and his music?
Sure.
As a musician, I get to maybe express some things which I don't often get to do with the sports people and all those great things going on in the world. But there's something about his music. I can't explain it, where you got the songs, right? We always like to hear the great call it the verse,
right?
But there's something that catches you just when you think you're, wow, where's this going? You come in with this powerful chorus. It's like, if you remember, I don't know if you were doing NCSY back in high school, but just picture the scene, right? So you got this dark room. It's Avdallah. It's whatever it might be that comes. And then all of a sudden they're playing, and it's the band. It's a full band. It was the guys that played with like the Neshama Orchestra that were the guys playing. And then as a teenager, I was just watching MTV back then, and you live watching all whatever music videos, and then these guys, it's just like out of nowhere. It's like thunder. It's like it pulls at your
music. Music is powerful.
It pulled me in. I'm telling you, it pulled me in. I didn't expect that to happen, and it was all his music. That's why I'm so excited about this.
Music's a time machine. It also transports you back in time. When you hear his songs, you remember where you were, when you heard them, what age, on the bus, camp, school, life.
Yeah,
it's an amazing time machine. I'll tell you something. Make myself vulnerable for a moment, which I'm wont to do. But I often will at a wedding be dancing, and there's something at the music. I'm like struggling not to. I get choked up even by dancing at a wedding. There's just something. It's exciting. Your feet are moving. The beat, the rhythm. You and I spoke about it in the Emunah Shir this morning, and I actually did start crying. We were at a wedding together on Sunday.
Yeah.
Beautiful family, beautiful chassan and kala, beautiful chassan and kala. It was so Labor There was such energy. The floor of the hall was literally shaking. It's possible
we almost slid into the bedeket.
it's possible we should be benching Gomel. Like, it was not clear that this floor was going to withstand the level of energy of these young people. It was not clear. It was unbelievable.
Rocking. Yeah.
I spoke this morning at the I want to share that there was one point in particular that I just was so moved by, where all these young people, when the band started playing Geschmack to be a Yid, and they went crazy, jumping, singing, dancing, and whatever questions or challenges, concerns you have for this generation and for Judaism today, when you see hundreds of young people, 2023, Tavshin Pei Gimel, they're jumping and bouncing, they're hopping, they're bopping, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs. It's Geschmack to be a Yid. It gives you faith, gives you hope, gives you comfort, gives you strength. It's powerful. And it's with music. Music's what makes them move. Nobody stops and thinks about it. Nobody had a pep rally. Nobody put them in a huddle. Nobody made an announcement. Please. It's just, they can't help it. It's just how you react. It's just what you feel. Music has that ability. It's incredible.
And especially the people that you don't ordinarily see or expect to be dancing. And you see how they get swept up in the moment. It's just so exciting.
You're not the only one, Rabbi Brody. I said to a few people, we're having Abie Rotenberg behind the Bima this week. What's your favorite Abie Rotenberg song? They're like, I don't know. What are his songs? I'm like, you ever hear of Achenu? You ever hear of, like, what? That's
what
him?
did they say? Yeah.
Like, everybody heard of it.
Yeah.
They just don't realize. One of his
Mamin, every great classic song from back in the day.
Well, it's time to bring him on. We could talk afterwards. What makes him great, but super exciting. Great opportunity. Please join us as we welcome the great Abie Rotenberg. What a pleasure. How exciting it is to be sitting and go behind the Bima with the great Abie Rotenberg, somebody who's had an influence not only on me and Rabbi Brody, but on so many of us. The songs that we sing, the songs that have moved us, the songs we grew up on, and that continue to inspire in real time. Abie, it's wonderful to see you again. Thank you for going behind the Bima with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be with you.
So here's my opening question, what I want to come out the gate with. There are so many songs, the Hebrew songs, the Kumzitz songs, the melodies that are used on Yamim Noraim and a typical Shabbos. They're Abie Rotenberg, they're Dvekas, the Dvekas phase of your life, and they're part of the fabric of who we are. And you've reached a certain iconic status of people not even knowing they're your songs, which on the one hand, I'm sure maybe is not a pleasurable thing, but on the other, what a status that the tunes are so, the melodies are so ubiquitous and they're everywhere that people don't even necessarily associate them with you. And then there's the other part of the Abie Rotenberg, the English, the poems, the prose, the English that move us so deeply. My wife and I led a trip to Poland several years ago. The shul, we took 40 people, mostly second generation. I'll never forget. It was such a powerful trip. One of the most powerful moments. We got back on the bus, and I don't know what compelled me, but I played memories into the microphone over the bus. And I turned around and there wasn't a dry eye on the bus. We had just finished, I don't remember. It was Auschwitz, Majdanek, Treblinka, touring a concentration camp, and there wasn't a dry eye. So my opening question coming out of the gate, when you look back and you think forward, what are you most proud of? Is it the Hebrew songs, the Hebrew melodies, the Kumzitz songs? Is it the English, the poetry, the prose that gave language and that gave a voice to such deep, deep feelings people have? What excites you, or what are you more proud of, or where are you looking next in terms of those two genres of what you do?
I think I'm proud of everything. I think I'm very, very thankful to the Ribono Shel Olam because, I really, it's not a question of taking credit. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me a talent that I don't know why he chose me, but he chose to me to be a messenger for music and to be able to influence people with melodies. It's very gratifying. It's very rewarding to walk into a wedding and hear your song being played at a chuppah or in a shul and somebody's using it for mimkaimcha. It's very, very gratifying. Anybody who tells you otherwise is not being honest with you. It's very gratifying. I'm sure that when you go to hear somebody's drasha and they quote Rabbi Efrem Goldberg. I heard from Rabbi. It's nice to be quoted. It's nice to be recognized. It's a basic human emotion. It's part of our DNA. So there's certainly something I'm proud of, but I'm very thankful that I was chosen to be a shliach. But in terms of what I'm most proud of, I would probably say the English songs, because Lefum Tzara Agra, the effort that goes into writing a song with an original idea and making that original idea come to life through words, and then you still have to put a song to it. You still have to put a melody to it, cloak it in a melody. So I would say Lefum Tzara Agra, a lot more effort than would go into something like that than simply taking a pasuk from David HaMelech and writing a nigun, which many people can do, and they do it wonderfully. And I'm not trying to say that it's easy to do or that it's not hard work sometimes in that area as well, but it pales in comparison to the work that's necessary to write an original song and put music to it.
So the follow-up question to that, because you mentioned that you feel the words and then you have to find the melody. And, this is a question we've asked many, and I'm sure you've been asked many times. Which comes first? Is it that there's a melody that all of a sudden you're tinkering on the piano and it comes out and then you find the right words to put to it? Or that you've written this poem, and maybe there's a difference between the English and the Hebrew. Is it that you wrote some poem in English and now you say, I've communicated, I've expressed this is from my heart? What music, what melody, how do I give this music?
So let's start with the Hebrew song. So the Hebrew song certainly works both ways. When I wrote Hamalach, I sat down with those words and the melody came to me for those words. I think the same for Achenu. But let's say Animam and Andvekas, we had the tune for a while. Label Sharfman actually found the words and put that nigun to those words. So it works both ways. In the English songs, I think it certainly works where the words come first and then you find a tune that'll fit. But I think even with the English songs, while you're writing the words, something is floating around in your mind, maybe not necessarily the exact notes, but certainly the rhythm, the cadence, the type of song, minor, major, happy, slow, sad, fast. So you have an inkling of where you want to go with the music, maybe not the exact notes. So I think with the English songs, you don't simply take a nigun around and put words to it. That's very unusual. That would be unusual, at least for me. Many people have said to me, here's a nigun. I wrote this tune. Can you please put English words to it? And I say, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way for me.
Do people send you a lot of their music, either for feedback or asking you to adapt it?
I do get, quite a few people, but people send me songs that I should record, and I tell them, I really try to do my own stuff. So for the most part, but every once in a while, I've gotten either submissions for lyrics or submissions for music that have resonated with me, and we've recorded other people's material, but it's rare. It's very rare.
Right.
Okay. Wow. I am so excited right now. I just want to tell you how excited I am. I'll tell you why. Because, growing up, when I moved to America, I was 10 years old, got involved in NCSY.
Where are you from?
From New Jersey, from Elizabeth.
No, South Africa.
Oh, from South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa.
South Africa. Okay.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of Jewish music growing up.
You moved to America from New Jersey to New York. I thought you were from out of town to in town.
Oh, this is great. Okay. So, whether it was the Kumsitz or the Havdalah, and I'm telling you, I wasn't interested in Jewish music. I wasn't interested in probably a lot of things Jewish at that time. Mm-hmm. But there was something about every Shabbaton that just kept drawing me back. I said, I got to go. Mm-hmm. I loved the music. I didn't have tapes. They certainly didn't have CDs back in the late 80s when all this music was coming out. Right. So I didn't know Devakas. I didn't know Abie Rotenberg. I just knew the songs. Haben Yakirli, Lev Tahor, Hine Yamim Bayim, Hine Kel, Kol Baramal, the Kol's Mans Va'es, Hine Anoch, and every song, Animamim, Hamalach. And I'm telling you, I love the music so much. I loved watching the musicians play. Mark Infield, some of the great, from back in the day. I started learning how to play the drums. I said, I got to be a drummer.
NCSY events. These were NCSY events.
These were all Shabbatons where they spent. It was hours of just singing. It was the Shal Shuddas. It was, and I'm telling you, I can't explain how that. Perhaps I'm thinking about it now. It's all coming together. It just put me on this track where I just got excited about it, and. It's even a joke now. Whenever we have a kumsitz, I also play guitar. Mm-hmm. Whenever we have a kumsitz at the shul, and we come up with a set list of what we're going to play, everyone makes fun of me. I'm like, I'm stuck in the 80s. Every one of these songs, every one of them had such an incredible impact. So I'm just wondering, the music that you created and that touched our souls, and it's so incredible. Why don't I see a lot of that? I don't feel that in the same way with the music that's coming out today. What's changed? There's definitely something that's changed. I felt it because I felt it. And it wasn't Carlebach, and other people are into other types of music, and that's great. But there's something about the music that you wrote. I didn't realize all these songs were you. Everyone. I don't have another person. I don't know who else. They were amazing.
Or put a little bit differently, where does it come from in you that other people don't have? What is it that you think, the depth of your neshama that's producing, that's singing these songs, that's producing these songs? What is it? Can it be put in words? What is it in you that others struggle to find that place in them?
You know what? I don't know the answer. And even if I did, I wouldn't say it. I'd leave that up to other people to say about me if I thought that I had an answer. Like I said before, I just feel blessed that I sit down and, either try to write a niggin or I try to write a niggin to certain words. I certainly did that back in the day before I started writing in English. Even today, I'll sit down sometimes at the piano just with a musical thought and try to develop it and take it where it goes. I have no idea. I really don't know. Everybody's experiences in life and whether they had ups and downs and struggles and pain and depth and situations. Everybody's molded by what they went through, and it's nothing particular that I could say I know why I was chosen to be a shliach, something in my life that affects my music. I can't answer that question.
Do you have concerns about the direction Jewish music has headed in? Or are you, there's such beautiful things. There are a lot of wonderful.
I can tell you, Rabbi Josh, that as much as you say you're still rooted in the 80s, I think every person has a decade or 2 decades where the music of that period is the one that is dear to their hearts. Everybody. And today's young, it's the music of today, but 20 years from now, 30 years from now, there's going to be music always changes. Music shifts. It's like water. It doesn't stay in one. It's got to flow. It's got to move. It's got to change.
Yeah.
And you, those were the years when you were growing in your Yiddishkeit. That music meant so much to you. And it'll never change. It'll always be the most precious to you. You'll hear a niggin now and then that maybe sounds a little bit like that time period, and that'll resonate with you today. I'm sure you love V'hisha Amda.
Yes.
V'hisha Amda.
Right.
But
it's one of the very few.
That was written, I think, in this century. I don't think that's from the last.
You're right, but that's one song in 20 years.
Okay, but it evokes that period of time,
right.
and it's that style, right?
Yeah.
And it's a classic song, and it's wonderful, and we sing it at our table, and it's beautiful, and to me it's wonderful as well. And there are songs today that kids 20 years from now, 30 years from now, going to look back and say, why can't today's music be like it was in the 2020s? That may not resonate with us because we're still stuck in the 80s and 90s or 70s, right? But they'll have the same question you'll have.
It's very interesting. It's a different answer than we received, but because you're saying essentially, don't have judgment about someone else's decade, right? Even though our decade we think is the most authentic, the most genuine, the most real, the most true, right, the most elevated. Don't be in judgment of someone else's decade. Let them have their decade. They'll look back in a few years, nostalgic for their decade.
Change it. It is what it is. My father grew up in Europe, and like you could say, what's not to like about Carlebach? Carlebach songs are all so wholesome and so basic and so beautiful. And this and that. I'll tell you a story. A good friend of mine, his father was a Polish Yid, a Galiciana Yid, with an ear for music. He was about tefillah, about koire, with a real Galiciana Yiddish. He would lane in shul. It took me years to get used to his Yiddish when I moved to Toronto. And my friend, who's my age, loved Shlomo, and he had a record player in his room. And his father used to tell him, Shol, macht sie de tir. Close the door if you're playing that record. I'm talking about Shlomo. But he was from Europe. He came from Poland, and he couldn't listen to Shlomo. It bothered him. It hurt his ears. My friend told me one time he was passing by the door and he heard Shlomo Carlebach singing his Kiva Koras, his holy Kiva Koras. So das is anigi. So that was the one Carlebach song that he heard. They said das is anigi. So we can't. It's the same thing. Shlomo was pure. Came from a holy place, and his music was so different than secular music. But yet, it wasn't appropriate for the ears of somebody who grew up in Poland and who grew up in the courts of Radomsk and Ger and those kind of things. So it'll be the same thing going on for forever and ever. What you grew up with and what molded you as a person is the music of your soul, and nothing can change that.
I just want to just add one thing. You know, they have these videos. I'm not telling anyone to go look for them on YouTube, where they have, it's called like a reaction video, where it's people that haven't heard a particular song in you know, from the 80s or 90s. They'll listen, and you see their initial reaction. It's from 30, 40 years ago, and they're blown away. Do you often get upset that you say, or not upset, disappointed that people didn't or don't have the opportunity because they just don't know it exists? They don't know your music from the 80s and 90s. If you only had a chance to perhaps even re-record it, do you think that, you know, with today's sound, it would definitely sound different?
I do think there are songs that are considered classics. I remember, you know, telling Baruch Levine once, because his music is beautiful and very often timeless as well. I said, it's not how hot the song comes out of the. It's not how hot the song is when it comes out of the oven. It's how long it stays warm. That's the sign of a good song. You know, if it hits, you know, 2-3 months, everybody's singing the song, and then it's forgotten forever. You know, okay, it had its moment in the sun, but it's like a sparkler. You know, it sparkles and disappears. If something lasts, and year after year, generation after generation, they're singing it. So that's a classic song, and it's the same thing in the secular world. It's you know, there are songs that are still being sung today and still playing on the radio today from, you know, not only on golden oldie stations, but there are some songs that just make it in society. So Baruch Hashem, I've got a few of those, and Yossi Green has a few, and Shlomo has many dozens and dozens of songs like that. Almost all of his songs are like that. So, you know, that's a wonderful thing. Will we have the same thing 20, 30 years from now for songs from today? I'm sure there will be some, but I don't know. You know, I'm not that familiar with current music, so I really can't tell you.
You mentioned your father. There are a lot of songs. You have a lot of songs about the Holocaust, directly or indirectly. I think some of those are the most touching, and you released them probably in a period not so close to the Holocaust that it was a source of pain, but not so distant that it was almost a smooth salve for the soul. You know, you were able to give expression to second or third generation who were connected still to the pain. Among the most beautiful and the most lofty of your songs. What's your personal connection to the Holocaust, and what do you feel is the most important messaging that needs to be passed down to the next generation from the Holocaust? Meaning, were these songs written to comfort those who went through it, or are they a curriculum? Are they pedagogic? Are they educational for those who need to remember it?
I think probably, what was it, 2 or 3 choices there? Pedagogic, to help alleviate the pain, and
I think those 2.
Probably both. You know, a song like Memories, I think, is more. It's hard. I struggled with Memories for a long time. That was a song that took a very long time to write, because I struggled to find, and I struggled in general. I don't think I in my earlier years, I could have written a song about the Holocaust. I was too new to writing. And you know what? Let me take a step back and give you a little bit more history about the evolution of going from writing Nigunim to writing in English. So you speak about NCSY events and how moved you were. So I was living in California at the time. I was in Chinuch. I was a teacher in a Jewish high school. And some of the kids in the school were NCSYers. And we had a mix in the school itself. We had kids who came from homes that were not Shomer Shabbos. We had kids from homes that were very Shomer Shabbos, and the parents wanted the kids to have a Torah education. And we had a lot of children in between whose parents were traditional, very much like in South Africa. If you went to shul, you went to an Orthodox shul, but you didn't really go to shul. You didn't keep the mitzvahs. But if you were gonna keep a Yom Tov, you kept it properly. Right. So that was the mix of kids, and we had some NCSYers, and I was invited to many NCSY events. And those that were mainstream LA City events or regional events had a lot of kids who could sing Od Avinu Chai and who could sing Carlebach songs and knew some of my songs. And we'd show up there with the guitar and it would be Lebedik and the kids would sing. But I was invited to an NCSY Kumsitz, and it was just a small region. I don't remember exactly which region in LA was. And we went there. I went there with my guitar. The kids didn't know any of the songs. And I had nothing to sing to them other than those Hebrew songs, and it fell flat. They didn't know the songs. I tried to teach them. They weren't interested in that. It was just simply like a group of kids who really were just starting out in NCSY, weren't familiar with the songs. I had nothing to say to them. I didn't know any songs in English, or the songs that I knew in English I didn't feel would resonate. And I felt that there's a void, there's a need for songs in English where you can sing it to a kid and he doesn't have to understand the pasuk. He doesn't have to know Hebrew. Some of those kids couldn't read Hebrew or understand Hebrew. You could tell them what V'li Yerushalayim Ircha means. You could add, but then again, you're singing it. They can't sing along. And I took upon myself, I said to myself, we have to start writing songs. I have to start writing songs in English. And at the same time, Bashert, I picked up a copy of the Megama albums, which was Moshe Yes's first album with Shalom Levine. And I heard My Zaidi and Prayer Book Blues and Dollar Bill and those kind of country folk songs written well and made a very big impact on me. And I said, I can do this as well. And I worked hard. And it was that year that I came up with the first Journeys album. So it was really, it came out of this necessity or this sense of it has to happen. And then I was thinking about it. I realized that, that the world of Europe had all these Yiddish folk songs that strengthened Emunah and spoke about concepts from the Torah. And because life in Europe was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, obviously this genre grew. And I said, it has to happen here now in America too.
When you first started that, did people give you a lot of pushback to say, no, Jewish songs are Hebrew or Jewish songs are Yiddish? We don't do English.
The first Journeys album was very successful. It was successful, I think, critically. I mean, the Sefer Torah song made an impact. It's Time to Say Good Shabbos. These were songs. Yeah, so the Sefer Torah song is such a holy nigga. It's not my tune, by the way. I just adapted the tune to those words. But it was such a holy nigga, and the words of the story and the messaging, I think it made an impact on people, and it was so. It had commercial success as well. But it's just so hard to do. You can't come out with a Journeys album every year. And I did a few years later come out with Journeys 2, and then it was 10 years to Journeys 3, and or 8 years, and then 10 years to Journeys 4, and 18 years to Journeys. It's just so hard to come up with ideas and quality themes, and it's not easy to do, at least for me. And I never had to do it. It was never my parnassa. Music was never my job. I never performed at weddings. It's not something I had to do for a living. I had another job where, I earned a living. So music was always, when I felt I had something to come out with, I did so.
Memories. You're sharing about memories.
Right. So, yeah, I don't think I was ready to write a song like on the first album about the Holocaust. But as I got better at writing and I, started to contemplate, doing the second Journeys, I also lived in Toronto. My in-laws were Holocaust survivors. We lived right nearby. We spent many Yom Tovim together. I heard their stories. My father was a Holocaust survivor, but he didn't go to the camps. He avoided the camps. He managed to run away and get to Switzerland. So he had a little bit of a different experience. He lost his mother, he lost a brother, he lost a sister, but many of his family survived. So he was sort of like a half Holocaust survivor. My in-laws were they went through the camps. They lost so many people. And the community that I joined here in Toronto is very much a survivors community, the shul I davened in. And slowly over time, I started to understand a little bit more about what they went through. And I very much wanted to write something that addressed that. I mean, how could our music not address that issue, not address that terrible, awful time in history? So many books, so many things have been written, so many essays, so many speeches. And there has to be songs about it too. But what do you say? How do you talk about it? And until I came up with the line, I know that God in heaven won't forget. I really was lost. I had all these ideas, numbers on the arm, and being blind, and how you could never forget, and the importance of the idea that, by the way, the idea of what will become of all the memories really has nothing to do with Holocaust remembrance per se. It's not an endorsement of building structures, museums, and that's not what it is. The answer is we don't. We don't have memories. There are so many people who died in the Shoah. There are no pictures of them.
Right.
There are no mementos. There's nothing. The memories are gone. They've turned to ash. We don't even know who they were. There's nothing left of their families.
Mm.
So what will become of all the memories is not just, make sure we remember because we'll find this piece of paper and we'll find that and we'll put, yes, those are all important. That's important that we remember. But what will become of the memories for the people we can't even remember, even if we try to remember them? And that's the answer, is that Hashem will always remember them, and that they have a place in Shamayim, and that there is, a life beyond this world. And so I was able to come up with that idea, and then the song took years till I had the final word in that song, and then the song came out shortly after.
Were you worried how survivors would receive it? Were you worried how could someone who didn't go through it try to give words to it, and will they understand the nuance of what you're trying to say?
It's like, I remember in shul, I used to sit next to my shver, my father-in-law, and he would sit across from another Holocaust survivor, and the Rav would get up and speak and start talking about the Holocaust, and they would right away go to sleep. The two of them. They didn't want to hear what he had to say. When what we went through, he had nothing. They didn't want to hear. You're right. I don't know if I was writing it for them. I don't think I was writing it for them. I was writing it for my generation, for future generations. What they went through and what the song from the Ashes on the Recent Journeys album, which is written by my daughter, is really a tribute to that.
Wow.
A tribute to that. How did they lift themselves from the dust and build the world they created for us? They rose from the ashes and relit their matches. How much we owe them for not running away and not throwing away their Yiddishkeit and discarding their birthright, but persevering and choosing again to rebuild for the umpteenth time in Klal Yisrael's history. We keep getting knocked to the mat, and what do? We get up again. I'm Kshei.
Did you get feedback from survivors, from not only memories but the other songs? Did they give you feedback about what it meant to them, or that it gave them comfort? Was it particularly meaningful? Do you remember any particular feedback? Is there a survivor that theme that you gave words and music to?
Yeah, I've had feedback from survivors, but much more feedback from children of survivors and grandchildren of survivors over the years. Again, the survivors are not the demographic that goes out and buys, Jewish music albums today. It's, occasionally, if I go and sing Often Pripyat, I'll get a much better response than singing something else, because that's, again, it's this generational thing about music,
Right.
that you really can't avoid. It happens, even if you're writing about something near and dear to them. Although From the Ashes, when they heard From the Ashes, I think that made an impression on many of the Holocaust survivors, especially when their children played it for them and the kids are in the room crying while their parents are listening to the song.
Wow.
So that has happened.
Every year on the March of the Living, they play the song Memories. I don't know if, and it's very, very powerful. 12,000, 15,000 participants. And this is just another example where I love this song. I love this moment. I look forward to it. We've done it, more than a dozen times.
Right.
And I should have realized it was you, because
Okay.
I didn't realize it at the moment. But
Yeah.
but that's there's no question that when they're singing that song and they're lighting these 6 large torches in Birkenau on Yom HaShoah, it's the apex of the entire experience.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on a March of Living? Have you been to?
Well, I'm a
Poland?
Kohen, so I've never gone on these trips to Europe because there's really no place for me to go.
Right.
So yeah, but
One large
the
cemetery.
man from Vilna, for example, is you asked about whether their songs. So that song is really. It's really Am Yisrael Chai. It's the sad version of Shlomo Carlebach's Am Yisrael Chai with a little bit more elaboration and background to it. But Am Yisrael Chai. If we don't have a Torah to dance with, we'll dance with our children. We live. The Jewish people will live on. We're going to endure. And that story. Someone told me that story, and it's fascinating. He was at a Simcha in Detroit. And people were sitting around a table complaining about all the simchas they have to go to. People said, I have a Shabbat Brachas on Tuesday, a Bar Mitzvah on Wednesday, and another wedding on Thursday. I can't take it. And there was a bang on the table, an old man sitting at the table. His name was, he was a Rav in Detroit, Rabbi Leo Goldberg from Detroit. And he says, you're complaining about simchas.
Wow.
I remember a time when we didn't know if there were going to be Jewish simchas again.
Wow.
And then he told over the story of he was there. He was in that city. He was in Vilna after the war, and he remembers people going to the shul, and there are no Sifrei Torah, and they carried the children around.
Was it Abe Foxman, right?
Excuse me?
Was it Abe Foxman, wasn't it?
Abe Foxman was the boy.
Yeah, we danced round and round in circles. I one of the most moving Yizkor drushas I ever gave in the shul was setting up that story and then using that story for the drusha. I'm sure I'm not the only one, so I should thank you for that in addition to everything else we have to thank you for. But we danced round and round in circles. I don't think I got through. I give the drusha several times. I don't think I got through it once without crying, because that and so much else. But to turn these stories into music.
Our history is filled with so much pain. Today, music today is very happy. Jewish music is happy. Jewish music is mostly in major today, and Jewish music is bouncy, and it's Noach was a big tzaddik, and everybody's jumping up and down, and there's a very happy vibe, and Baruch Hashem, the scholars in America hasn't been too bad, it's been longer than most of our Golusin, without major problems, and it's certainly been very, very, easy, and we have success, and life is quite fulfilling, and it's such a good period of time, and the music reflects it. I come from that generation, children of Holland. There's still a lot of pain in our music, and that's slowly dissipating. Yeah. And I hope it keeps going. I hope we only go from this to the ultimate Simcha of, Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we never have to go back to a time when our music expresses a lot of pain and suffering. But boy, have we been through it historically, and anybody who learns Jewish history, learns Torah, learns Chazal, he sees that, life has been very, very difficult for Klal Yisrael.
Yes, this is the period of Jewish music.
One of the songs that I'm most proud of is Habeit Mishamayim Ure'ei. That's our biggest what's trump card when we go to Shamayim. You say, Rebbeinu Shalom, look at that, we're still here. Look what we've been through, and we're still here.
So Rabbi Brody mentioned a couple times these iconic songs he didn't even realize were yours. I think one of the reasons that you stand out, and for me are so inspiring, is the humility that you bring to your music career. And not to criticize anyone, but I don't think anyone's ever seen Abie Rotenberg pose for a selfie with someone or try to be an influencer online, or, as you said, your livelihood didn't depend on it. So it's not that industry. You're very different in that way, and there's a humility that you bring. How do you stay humble with all that success, with the fact that children and adults everywhere?
Well, I've done lots of selfies. A lot of people, pull me over when I do perform, especially today. I mean, in the olden days, it was, you had to really pose for a picture, and it wasn't so, like you say, ubiquitous. It wasn't all over the place. You know, I don't like to give autographs. You know, people say autograph. What do you need my autograph for? What's my order? I give it if it's special children or things like that. I'm happy to do it. But you know, so I written some nigunim, but you know, that's not the apex of in our religion. That's not the apex. You know, we should be asking Gedolim for their signatures. You ever see anybody go over to, you know, I've got your safer here. Could you sign it? You know, they wouldn't think of doing that because, you know. So I don't know.
But Abie Rotenberg is a Jewish household name, and we do know that impact. So is there a particular mentor that you have? Is there a Rebbe? Is there a sefer that you learn? Is there a person in your life who helps? Is it a conversation you even have to have with yourself? How to stay humble? You've expressed several times in this conversation. You're just a shliach. Hashem sent you these nigunim through you. You just wrote some nice songs. Is that a conversation you have to have with yourself, or you've been blessed that comes naturally to you?
Look, even if I was, let's say, naturally humble to some extent, you know, I don't have a personality, which is, yeah, I'm a quiet guy. I'm even in camp and, you know, places like that. I was never the guy to get up on tables and jump up and down with the guitar. I wasn't that kind of a person or a musician. I don't like to act, for example. I don't like to get on stage and, you know, act. And some chevra in camp were great at that. And they loved the microphone and they grabbed it and they went out, you know, and they just love it. But at the same time, you know, everybody suffers from you know, gaiva. Everybody struggles with it in one way or another. A guy could be the biggest. Moshe Rabbeinu was the biggest anav. Doesn't mean it was easy for him.
Right.
Right. He was the biggest anav, so he succeeded more than most. But it's a struggle. It's not something you that's easy, especially if you have success and you find success. So it's hard. So, you know, I struggle with it. It's not easy. But Baruch Hashem, like I said, I don't do it for a living, so I don't have to fight that and push myself out there. So I'm able to stay, you know, myself to some extent. And I guess, you know, from my yeshiva training and from what I've learned and from what I learned from when I see the Torah, I see, to me, that's as, you know, not being a Baal Gaiva is more important than, you know, than 99% of the other mitzvahs in the Torah. So, you know, I think I have the right priority in that regard.
What inspired Marvelous Midos Machine? Speaking about Midos,
Having children, having kids, you know, it's like every day was material. You know, it was like material happening in my kitchen, in my living room, and the kids arguing and fighting and this and that. And so you know, when my kids were in their formative years, that's when those albums were made, and it was pretty easy to come up with material. But again, some of those songs I'm very proud of. There was a lot of effort, a lot of time went into writing the Midos song, and it's not simple. It's not necessarily simple. You know, just because it's a children's album doesn't make it simple. We wrote a song called Bima. There's a song called the Mavater song. Kids are rushing to the thing, and everybody wants to grab the best piece, and this and that, and so what do you have to be Mavater? Is there a simon in Shulchan Aruch that says, you know, you've got, if you get to the table first or somebody serves you the bigger piece, are you supposed to give it up? Is there a halacha? So how do you write a song like that? Like what? So we sat and we thought and be Mavater once in a while. You know, we didn't say be Mavater all the time, but at least be Mavater. You don't always need to be the one who gets everything. You know, Hashem will be so happy if you're Mavater. Not that it's a mitzvah or a chiyuv. So there could be very, you know, delicate questions that have to be addressed and answered properly. So we took it as a very serious achrayus, you know, to teach midos to children and through the children, the Heishav Levavos El Banim, you know, through the Banim, we hope to help the parents have a little bit better midos too.
So we talked about how your music has done kiruv. Rabbi Brody, one example.
Yeah.
Your music has educated midos. Your music has comforted survivors or the generations of pain of the Jewish people. It's had such an impact beyond just music. It doesn't get played in the background. It's something that enters the foreground and having an impact.
I get a lot of nachas when, let's say, when a bunch of yeshiva guys, we sit down, we do a kumsit, and they're, let's say, able to sing every word from memories, and they know it by heart, or the man from they know the words better than I do, because I forget the words, in my old age, I forget. But they know them by heart. They know every word to
Kids do.
show
My
them
kids know them by heart. My
Yeah.
kids know them by heart. My kids, again, didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, but that's the staying power of these songs, and that's how deeply it penetrates into the heart, and they know it. I can't help it. You just said, I don't know if you're being sarcastic or real. Do you struggle to remember? I always wonder this about people who write the words to their own songs. I was just at an event a couple weeks ago with a Jewish music superstar who's had some longevity, and someone was taking a request. It was a very small setting, a composite setting. Someone requested, he's like, oh, what are the words to that again? That's right. A song that he was very popular for. So when you're on stage or you're taking a request, you ever worry someone's going to ask for something and you're going to struggle to come up with those words?
Well, if they ask me to do a song where I don't remember the words, I'll ask them to bring up their phone and have it, they go to lyrics.com or something like that, and they'll put it on the piano, and, I could do it that way. Or I say, I'll play the song. I remember the music, but, sing along, and or at least be ready to help me if I forget a lyric. I don't care, I'm a Zayda many times over, and I just, so what? So I make a mistake on stage. I once sang the Atheist Convention at a concert, and I realized afterwards I mixed up two sets of the song. Made no sense the way I sang it.
You get nervous? You still get nervous before you perform?
Not anymore. Not really. Not anymore. Wow. I used to be very, very nervous when I first started performing. I was much younger, but today, Baruch Hashem, I really don't get too nervous.
Have you heard someone sing your songs that you say, wow, that's incredible? They took it to a whole nother place. I never even imagined.
Or the opposite. Have you heard them sing it and say, oh, they butchered it? How could they do that to my song?
Yeah, both ways. I've heard
both.
Yeah, I've heard people butcher my songs, and I've heard people do wonderful, wonderful renditions of it. That I enjoyed very much, and I'm happy to hear variations of the song, and people taking it to a different place, and maybe even changing some of the music a little bit because again, that's part of musical expression, and that's what happens, and but I'm honored that they wanted to do a cover of a song of mine. It's very, very gratifying.
In addition to the music, you've also written 2 books unrelated to music. You think that comes from the same place? You think somebody who's artistic, or the authorship that went into particularly the English songs is similar to the authorship? Meaning, how similar and how different are the skill sets of writing music and writing books?
That's an interesting question. I don't believe I've ever had that one before, that question. So I wrote two books. One book I call a novel. It's a novel. It's a kiruv novel, a novel with the intent to reach out to brothers and sisters about Yiddishkeit, to teach the basics. Back in the day, Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, he wrote his 19 letters, right? So that was a time when people were intellectual. They were searching for the truth. You could send kids. I think I got for my bar mitzvah, somebody sent me the 19 letters of Shamshon Raphael Hirsch. I think by then already it was too late. Like Rabbi Hirsch, his generation maybe could handle that. I think I tried to read it and, couldn't get past the first couple of pages. So to teach the basics of Yiddishkeit to the youth today, especially youth who don't know anything about it, aren't excited by their Rebbe and Cheder, all about Moshe Rabbeinu and Torah, Sinai, and all these things. So I felt very strongly that it has to have another story that would draw them in. And I'm a big fan of baseball, so I decided to make the baseball the ikar. 80% of the book is about baseball, 75% is about baseball, but the rest of the story, you squeeze in Yiddishkeit through the cracks and in between the lines, and so to me that was a little bit similar to some of the outreach work that I try to do in my music. So there is a similarity. And I took some of the themes from the songs and put them into the book. Some of the messages, conversation in the womb, and Olam Haba, and took those ideas and put them into the book. But then the other thing that I wrote was Eliyahu Novi. That was much more of a safer than it is a book. That's learning. I go through the Chazal, how I understand the Chazal, or bringing how Rishonim and Achronim understood the Chazal. So more, you sit down and learn, but I very much enjoyed learning a sugya, a topic. It's very broad, but everything in the Sefer really has to do with Eliyahu Novi. So it was researching through the Yitzhar HaChachma and through different Svarim all about Eliyahu Novi and collecting it all into one place. So that was very enjoyable for me, but that's real learning, and that's, you know, sitting down and trying to understand what a Gemara is saying or what the Mefarshim is saying, and then putting it into English words.
It's fantastic. When you're not listening to Marvelous Midos Machine or Dveikus or Journeys, what does Abie Rotenberg listen to? What music?
WFAN.
660.
I really don't listen to music that much. I don't. Even on trips, I listen to the news. I'll listen to sports. Occasionally, you know, when Baruch Levine sends me his album, I'll listen to it. And again, if I'm at a wedding and I hear a beautiful song, I will try to find that song and learn it. But again, I never listened to a lot of Jewish music, and even when I was much younger, I really didn't listen to secular music either. For some reason, I'm not a big fan of listening to music in the car or when I'm driving. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Never would have guessed that. I
Wow.
would have thought you derive musical inspiration and listening, and you appreciate parts of music others of us don't. So that's fascinating. Is there a musical inspiration? Is there somebody, a musician, Jewish or not, whose style or genre inspires your music?
Well, when I was younger, I did listen to some folk music. I listened to Simon and Garfunkel. I listened to Harry Chapin and John Denver and some of that stuff. But again, I was a casual listener. I just liked them more than the other stuff that was on the radio. So I remember buying a couple of records back in the day.
Do you hear music in your head? You don't listen, but you constantly hear music and playing.
I do. Like, I'll very often, like, the best songs I ever wrote, the best nigunim I ever wrote were written on Shabbos.
Right.
Like, my family, my kids were all gone to play. My wife's, gone to read. I'm still sitting at the table and I'm singing a niggin, and I sing it over and over and over again. So I should remember it after Shabbos. And the best nigunim I ever wrote were on Shabbos. And every single one of them is lost because I never remembered them after Shabbos.
Really? Oh, what a loss.
Never
Those are the songs of the Neshama Yisera. That's why those are the best.
Yep. All gone. They're all in the what's it called? They went to Tov of
You've collaborated with a lot of people through your music.
I heard the Skolena Rebbe, I think the Frierdiker Skolena Rebbe, his son, when he would write a niggin on Friday night, his son was tasked to remember it, and he would sing it to himself a whole day. I don't know if he slept. Maybe he didn't sleep a whole Shabbos. He would sing it so that Motzei Shabbos he could write it down or record it.
I wish I was with you. I would have done that all Shabbos.
I wish I was a Rebbe. I could have somebody do that for me, but no.
You've collaborated with a lot of people on your albums and in person. Is there a particular collaboration that meant the most or was the most exciting to you? And is there a Jewish musician that you hope to and want to but have yet to collaborate with?
Well, I could say that, some of my fondest memories are really from collaboration. Label Sharfman is a dear friend. Baruch Levine is a dear friend. They're both so talented. The Chaver from Dveikus, we go back years. Yossi Sonnenblick, Eli Kranz, Rabbi Schwabel. These are dear, dear friends. And we became not just friends because of the music, but, close friends outside of music as well. The families are close, and it's been a beautiful thing. Shlomo Simcha lived in Toronto. I did 3 albums with him. Such a wonderful. Now he's in Boca. Now he's in Boca. He's in your neighborhood. He's such a sweet fellow and a wonderful person. Very happy to have had the opportunity, and hopefully we'll continue to work with him with Shia Mendelwitz, and he's the one who got me first into the Hask shows. They schlepped me kicking and screaming to the stage, and. Of course, Donnie Gross, I did the last album with him. He's wonderful, very talented, great singers like Avraham Fried and Mordechai and Yaakov Shwekey. These are all wonderful, wonderful fellows, and I've collaborated with them on. They sang on my albums, and we've sung together on stage, and it's been a beautiful thing. They're all very special in their own way, and they're trying to do, good for Klal Yisrael. They realize they have a calling, and that there's a mission, and that they have a special opportunity. Kabedes Hashem Me'ayincha. I mean, I don't have to tell you the Chazal. It's both uplifting and scary. It's a scary, scary medrash. You if you have a talent, and it's not just limited to music, any talent. You have a talent in making money. Kodesh Baruch Hu wants you to give it away, give it to tzedakah. You have a talent with art. You have a talent with your personality. You have a talent to heal as a doctor or a medical worker. You have to use it. You have to use it for. It's an achrayus. And it's scarier, and if you don't, it's considered a terrible, terrible sin. We can't even measure it. We don't know, but Chazal seem to be able to measure it and say that that's why he lost his life. He lost his life because he didn't use his talents. He didn't lose his life because he didn't go to Yerushalayim. That's not why he lost his life. That's a mitzvah saseh. You don't do a mitzvah saseh. You don't do a mitzvah saseh. He lost his life because he failed to help Klal Yisrael when he could.
Is it someone that you want to collaborate yet with, but you haven't yet? Are we ever gonna benefit from an Abie Rotenberg Ishai Ribo collaboration of some sort?
I don't know. My Ivrit's not so great, but maybe, you never know. But again, like I said, I've listened to a few of his songs. They're beautiful. He has a tremendous, tremendous gift. And he's using it, and he's going all over the world and spreading emunah across the globe. And kol hakavod to him. I hope we meet one day. I've never met him. I haven't had that opportunity yet, but you never know. You meet and you talk, and very
as long as Behind the Bima gets some credit on that album, the Abie Rotenberg Ishai Ribo album, introduced Behind the Bima.
Yeah, if you need a drummer, by the way.
Wow.
Just on one of those slow ballads.
South Florida have a band, like a good band that you play with or something for weddings?
Not yet. We're working on it.
The Boker Raton Synagogue Kumsitz band.
Yeah.
That's what he specializes. You've been amazing, gentlemen, with your time. We can't tell you much. We appreciate it. I'll ask the obvious question. I'm sure you've asked a million times, and I'm sure no one gets a real answer. Is there a favorite Abie Rotenberg song of all time?
Really not. Really not. I don't say I have a favorite song. Baruch Hashem. I have the thing is I have a number of songs that surprised me how well they did and how well they were received. But I also have a number of songs that surprised me how poorly they did, or how they were not embraced.
So what's an underrated? Give us an underrated Abie Rotenberg song that we will put in the show notes and get out there.
Okay, a song like on Dveikus 6, Min HaMeitzar. So it's known and people do sing it, but I think it's a fantastic song.
Can you give us one stanza? Can you give us one?
Hashem li lo iro, ma yaseh li. Fits the words so well, and there's anyway. So that's like one song. I have a song called Inve HaGefen on one of the Leva Nefesh albums that I thought would become a staple, and there are a number of songs like that. But I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up hope, because you never know. You never know.
They've yet to be discovered.
As long as there's life, there's hope.
How do you choose the playlist when you perform? You did the Torah Academy concert here in Boca Raton a few years ago. How do you choose whether it's in someone's living room at a piano or on a stage? How do you come up with? You have such a rich list to choose from. How do you choose the playlist?
So if it's a concert, you have to obviously choose your songs in advance and rehearse them and pick the keys and figure out who's going to sing what and the harmonies. But my favorite way to perform these days is just piano, an audience, and guys, what do you want to sing with me? So it's more like a kumsitz where we get together and they'll suggest an English song, a Hebrew song. I'll sing a little bit. The chaver will sing a lot. And that to me is very enjoyable because there is a large repertoire, and and it's more like, we're getting together to sing, and that's a lot more fun than having to prepare a playlist and et cetera, et cetera.
How many
You sing a
songs
lot.
have
Sorry, you
you
sing a
written?
lot at your Shabbos table? Do Zmiros go on endlessly? Do you choose a lot of your own songs, or just the classic Zmiros?
It's a good question. My father was very strict at home about Zemiros. So I think that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So I think in my home, I was very lax. I just felt like, I remember not being, my father would say, come, we're doing Zemiros. It was very regimented. He was European. He was pretty strict with it. And I felt, like it was, so I never really pushed my kids too much. I mean, we would sing Zemiros, but if they were there, I'd sing with them. If they weren't there, I'd sing without them. So it was never a big deal in my house, the Zmiros. When we had guests and we wanted to, and they knew it, if we had guests who for kiruv purposes, so then the Zmiros became a very important part of the kiruv process, and then the kids would be asked to come join and sing along and make a rosham make an impression on the guests that Shabbos was so special, etc. But in our home, there was plenty of music besides the Shabbos table, so it was never really a focal point, ironically.
Yeah. You said you went kicking and screaming to the Haas concerts. Is there a musical performance?
Absolutely.
Is there a musical performance that stands out for you as having been very special and memorable? Israel and America, on stage, privately for someone?
So, what I think it was the third or fourth Haas concert. They honored composers. That was the theme. She and Mendel had said, we're going to honor composers. And they honored Betsy and Shenker was there. And he got on stage and he sang. He was probably in his 80s already, or late 70s then, and maybe early 80s. And he got up and he sang a song, and he was so warmly received by the audience. And Yigal Salek was there, and he had his Pirchei choir, and they sang a song or two. And Yerachmiel Begun was not there, but they sang some Miami songs. And Shmelky Brazil was not there, but they did Shmelky's Niggin or Bilvavi. I don't remember. So they were honoring composers who were there. Baruch Chait was there. I was there, but I didn't sing my own song. Rivi Schwebel got on stage and sang a song of mine. And there were other composers who were not there, and they honored their compositions. And then at the end of that segment, so it was towards the end of the concert, I came on stage with Mordechai Ben David, and we spoke glowingly of Shlomo Carlebach and his music, and we started to sing Ona Hashem. And the audience was very nice. We started playing Ona Hashem, nice applause, We start the song, we're singing it. And about a minute or a minute and a half into the song, Shlomo came on stage in the middle of the song. As we held him back, we made the audience think that we were simply honoring him, and his was the last one, meaning Achron Chaviv. We're going to honor the greatest composer of Jewish music, and everyone thought he wasn't there. And that's why it was Mordechai and I who went out, and then Shlomo came out in the middle, and the roar that came from that audience. You could feel it coursing through your body, through your bones. The honor, the covet that they gave him, standing up, the applause, it was something special. So that was my favorite moment ever on stage. And I can't imagine, anything greater than that, because it was a packed room at at Avery Fisher Hall, and it was just incredible.
I must have listened to that hundreds of times.
I know,
I'm hearing exactly what you're describing.
He deserved it. Just holding him back that 1 minute, that minute and a half, and so happy to see him. What a moment.
Wow. Abie, thank you for your time. Thank you for going behind the Bima with us and sharing so much. Thank you for your music.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brody, you remember that Haas moment?
Yeah.
That Carlebach tribute? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I listened to all the original Hask concerts. Had them on tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an
What stood
interview.
out to you from that interview? What impressed you? What inspired you?
He didn't answer this one question. I really wish that we could somehow re-record
What
all
his
of
music
these.
playing in his head?
Well, yeah, but I would re-record all these songs. You know, for
Friend
this
of
new
mine texted
generation.
mine. They said this has to be the best.
There's a little child waiting to be born today.
You know what song this is?
Yeah. The Shamala? Yeah.
I don't want to go. The Shamala? Come on, it's unbelievable. Yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
I'm just saying it'd be great if they re-recorded all these songs and just re-released them for the new generation, for people that haven't heard them before.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of these songs that are familiar. Many aren't. They just don't know them.
You said the melodies are great, they just need to be re-released, redone?
First of all, the way that they record music today is very different than they did back in the 70s and 80s. And it would sound so much better. The music would just be a different quality.
So is that your mission? Try to convince Abie
But I'll tell you-
re-release his classics?
Yeah, and I would love to be on that album also. I mean, it's a little piece of that, but but I'll tell you the truth, it's actually really hard because how do you get it out there? So let's say he re-records it and you put it out on iTunes. How do people find it? How do
I'll
people
tell you how you
find
do it
music
now.
today?
You know what's crazy? You know how many people listen to music on YouTube?
Right.
You remember when we were kids, like records, then tapes, then mixtapes that you had to make, right?
You could
But
have
today people go on YouTube and they create their own playlist on YouTube, or obviously
Yeah.
Apple Music, Spotify. You create playlists. You don't have to get through other songs you don't want to hear. You just make a playlist of what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And but I'm saying if it was re-released with a good music video that moved you, it'd be on YouTube. It'd have tens of hundreds of thousands of hits quickly.
Yeah, that's right. And I really do believe, and again, this is a debate which we could always have, and I think we've had it before, is do I like the music I like because I grew up with it? But
right.
I want you to know, I've done a lot of research on this, and I really believe good music is good music. And if you're exposed to good music,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure what
care
that
how
means.
old
You
you
did a
are.
lot of research, by the way. I'm going to call you out on that one. What does that
Good
mean?
research means is that this is my feeling.
Is your feeling like good? I've done a lot of research. Means I thought about it for a minute and a
I
half.
thought about it for about 2 minutes, and I've done that's my research.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
But I'm just telling you, I really do believe that if you listen to good music, I don't care what generation you're from, you'll love it. You just haven't had a chance to hear it.
Okay.
So,
You know what song didn't come up tonight? That has to be a classic of his, right? Mama Rachel.
Yeah. No, there's so many. He's probably recorded 200 or 300 songs.
Yeah. Original compositions.
Original. Yeah. How do you pick that? Like you said, like how do you decide what you're going to play tonight?
I love his humility. I love his perspective.
Yeah.
I love his.
And didn't he say that this is not what he does full time? We didn't ask him what he does when he's not doing this.
He's a family import business of jewelry or of clothing, accessories or something. But that's, I think, part of why it's authentic and real. It's like there's no pressure to produce or to perform or to keep up or to influence. It's just,
he just keeps pumping out the hits.
Here's another classic. We didn't even talk about this. Rachem. Dveikus.
Yeah.
How many more? Dveikus, you just listen to that. When I was a kid, that was it. You put the Dveikus tape in, you just kept flipping it over. Dveikus over and over.
Yeah.
Dveikus over and over. Okay, closing thoughts, Rabbi Brody. Wow. I just want to play Abie Rotenberg songs all night. But we got to go. Closing thoughts.
Maybe we'll make it. We'll turn into like add some music into the show.
We should. We should get an original composition for Behind the Bima from Abie Rotenberg. Here it is.
For your dear children, if you raise your sweet voice now, then the day will come. Mama Rachel cried.
Mama Rachel cried for us. Won't you shed a tear? All classics, all songs, instant
Doesn't
classics.
get any better.
Oh, unbelievable.
You know, one closing thought would be is I would love to just let's do a tour of all the oldies. Get these. I don't know who they are, but all these musicians. Go on tour.
I'm inspired by the young man who texted me because I really think it'd be a great shul series. We actually did the shul series we didn't do it exclusively Abie Rotenberg. We had a short series where we'd play a song and then give a shir. Because basically there's so many words, whether it's Miros we sing, Ka'ech Sof, or Yom Zeh Mechubar, or Baruch Elyon, we sing the songs, and do people know what they mean? Right? And
I
even
feel
now,
like you did
more.
that once. Didn't you go
I did.
through?
No, I did. We did a series.
Yeah.
But maybe we bring it back. So I'm really
Right.
inspired by it, especially take the English ones and like,
Right.
what's he tapping into? What's the depth? Our fact checker is sending me a long list now. Nar Hayisi, V'li Yerushalayim, Conversations in the Womb. There's no end. You can just keep playing it a whole night.
Right.
You know. So there's great
Yerushalayim.
stuff.
What a great song.
Yeah, they're all great.
But again, it's that same chorus. Strong chorus, even as
They're all from the heart. That sweeten of his voice. Conversations in the Womb. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, Rabbi Brody.
said it
Always
all.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure to spend time with you. And
Sure, I'll see you tomorrow.
yeah, it's also he's got breath. Hebrew, English, fast,
Pretty brave,
slow.
right? There wasn't a lot of English music coming out when he was putting
Right.
that out.
Right. Yeah, it's got it all. And baseball.
Like it's in
I like he's
Yiddish.
not
Why
shy.
can't he-
He's
right.
not shy about loving baseball.
He loves the
That's my
Yankees.
favorite line in the interview. What does Abie Rotenberg listen to when he's not listening to Abie Rotenberg? What music does he listen to?
WFAN.
WFAN. Moshe Francesa. That's what he's listening to. All
All
right. Another great night, Rabbi Brody. Till next time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We got people still writing in. Avos Yisrael. I love Invei Gefanim and Ametzar. We got people, they're just catching up
Right.
now. They started
Right.
late and they're writing in. So everyone who's listening, write in. Write it on YouTube. Write in the comments on podcast player, whatever you listen to. When you rate and review, write in your favorite Abie Rotenberg song.
5 stars.
We'd love to hear. Yeah, we're listening. We want to know what's your favorite Abie Rotenberg song. All right. Till next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay holy.